Hello, and welcome to another episode of the CIRS Group podcast. I'm Barbara,
And I'm Jacie.
and today we thought it would be fun. I always say that, and do I mean it? You decide. Today we will be going into resources for how to keep your home or whatever space you are in, could be your workspace, safe. Now that you've found a healthy space, we're presuming you've done the testing, it's good to go, you're healing in that space, you're taking your binders, you're feeling better. How do you keep it that way? That's a big question mark. So we want to go into that, and we have covered aspects of this topic in previous episodes. So when we are reminded, we'll mention those episodes as we go along, and of course, I'll have some links in the description for easy access if you'd like to learn more about this topic. But in the meantime, before we get all into it, this is not medical advice and it's not indoor environmental professional advice either. You want to hire your own IEP to help you make these remediation decisions and to figure out what's best for your unique situation. These tips and tricks and info are more for you to use as a guide so you know what to ask your professional in your life to help you manage all of this fun stuff. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, I feel like this episode is going to be us referencing a lot of other episodes because we do have a lot of really great resources for finding a safe space. We just did the podcast on renting listers, and I think that's a good place to start. Kind of like when you're selecting the location for yourself to live in, there are options you can choose that are going to be easier, and there are options you can choose that are going to be harder. And we definitely talk about this a lot in that Renting with CIRS episode. Basically, like if you're going to live in Florida, it's going to be a lot harder. And if you choose somewhere with a more dry climate, it's going to be easier. If you choose a spot on the top of a hill, that would be easier than a place prone to flooding. So there are just options like that that are really going to make this kind of tail end experience of maintaining the space easier or more difficult. So again, check out that episode. We'll leave it a link down in the description.
Another bonus is if you can get a home or office building that's built on slab, meaning it does not have a basement. Basements are notorious for being problems for collecting moisture and humidity. And of course, if you have a basement or have lived in a home with a basement, you probably know what I'm talking about. A friend of mine just told me that he was dealing with a sewage leak in his basement, and I can't hide the disgust which is on your face now, as well as like complete fear and also sadness for that entire situation for them. So yeah, that stuff sucks. So wouldn't it be great to not have a basement at all? So that's why on slab is great. And then of course, if you are renting, having a landlord or a management company that you can tolerate working with, and this can kind of be tested out a little bit during the leasing process. It's a good idea to try to gauge how responsive they are when you look around the building. Is everything, well maintained? Does it look like things are cleaned regularly and they're really on it, as opposed to, doing fire drills everywhere where, oh, oops, this place flooded because they never maintained, the seals on the toilets, or oops, that this thing is happening now because people weren't paying attention to the sprinkler hitting the outside of the building wall. Like just dumb stuff. So if you can notice that things are either being maintained properly or not, that gives you a really good leg up on that situation as well.
So once you have your space, your safe space, and you've kind of selected that easy to hard mode range, here are the things you can do in your space to really help maintain it and make sure that it stays as safe as possible for as long as possible. So one thing you really want to micromanage is the humidity level in your home. So you want the relative humidity to be under 40%. The thing you can use to see what the humidity in your home is called a hygrometer. And that is what actually, is that true? Is it really a hygrometer? I
I
thought it was
don't.
something else.
I was ready to fully believe you on that one. Because I'll just type, if you were looking on Amazon for this product, because you can, and they're really reasonably priced, like $5, $10 for like a set of three, something dumb. But I just look up humidity meter on Amazon and you'll find it. But JC will,
It
because
is a
she,
hygrometer.
thank you.
Cheers.
I knew she was going to confirm either way. See, you got to trust your past Jacie note writing abilities.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a space cadet today. I apologize. But things you can do to lower the humidity if you are above that 40%. One is humidifiers. When I was living in Florida with my family, we had three full-sized humidifiers that needed to be emptied once a day, every day. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So depending on where you live and the humidity outside and inside, you may have to empty those more or less frequently. And then another thing you can do is just run the fans that you have in your home. So like that would be your stove vent fan. That would also be your, like if you're cooking pasta, for example, just making sure you're getting as much of that moisture out as it enters the air. And then also in your bathrooms. That's the really big one, making sure those fans are running in the bathroom. And I just run mine all the time. They're
Yeah.
pretty quiet and like when for you, you had a loud one in your guest bath and you replaced it with a like nice quiet one. And I notice you just leave it on all the time now.
Yeah, that's true. And because I won't even remember when you walk by, you don't even really hear that it's on. You have to be
Hmm.
kind of inside the bathroom to even notice it. So, yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to run that. I mean, you have to replace it sooner eventually than not, but it's kind of I'll prefer that expense and hassle than having a mold problem, right?
Speaking of more prone to water damage, another thing you can do is put leak alarms near any sort of sink, appliance that has to do with water. That way, if you do have a leak, the leak alarm will alert you to it. There are some that are just analog, so they'll just yell at you if they get wet. I got a set of six off of Amazon that are Bluetooth enabled, so it's just connected to my router. And I was able to assign like each of the leak alarms to a location in my home. So if I'm away from home, I'll know what is leaking and exactly where. Another tip we got from Michael Schrantz, the IEP, was to put paper towels on the surface of wherever that leak alarm is. So if you're putting it under your sink and you have like a leak tray, which ideally you would have that. If you have a leak tray, if you line that with paper towels, it'll wick the water to the alarm so that if the leak is happening on one portion of the sink tray, it can still make its way to that leak alarm to alert you.
Yeah, really good tip. And I did not pay the extra to have an online-y one, words that I'm making up. But I wish that I had. So if you're sitting here going, man, the non-Wi-Fi ones are only, I don't remember, 30 bucks, 20 bucks, but the Wi-Fi ones are like 100, pay for the fancier ones like Jacie did. And I'm home so much, or someone always is because we have a dog. So, maybe in my situation, I can see where you could rationalize not getting the Wi-Fi ones, but it's really just an extra layer of great. You just know if you're out, even just having lunch with a friend and something goes off, immediately and you can go home and really save yourself. I mean, just think of the thousands of dollars of damage you could potentially save yourself if you are alerted in time to stop the madness.
And I'm sure that the analog ones have like a trip where if it gets low battery, perhaps it alerts you that you need to change the battery. But one of the perks of doing the Bluetooth ones is it tells you when they need to be recharged, and
Oh, that's
mine
super
are
helpful.
rechargeable. So I know that I know that they're online. I can see that they're online. I can also see when the battery is going low. You can also test it, right? It's just nice. I like them.
Yeah, they're great. That's cool. Next, we have Air Oasis machines or air purifiers as like the generic idea of these things. But we do really like Air Oasis. This company specifically has gone above and beyond to make their products really exactly how Dr. Shoemaker himself would want an air purifier to be. They have a lot of information on their website. The owner of Air Oasis did a great interview with Michael Schrantz, the same IEP we just talked about on Michael Schrantz's podcast, which I can link in the description. But and the point of listening to that is they really go into the science, what exactly they tested, what they've can prove that it does, all that fun stuff. So they are pricey. They are very expensive. So definitely wait till a holiday. Like if you're watching this episode live, then Black Friday is not too far away. You might want to wait for that before you buy your first one or your next one. But these are so good. They're just, I mean, I find usefulness like if I'm cooking something and like there's a little bit of smoke in the air from whatever I'm cooking, It actually, that kind of bothers me. Like it hurts my throat, my lungs, and my eyes. And I will just put my big pro unit on max speed when I'm cooking, and it clears the air so fast. And like that's no, that's real. Like I can see the haziness in the air, and it just gets recycled really fast. And the smoke detector doesn't go off. Extra bonus. So I'm a big fan of them. I have them running literally 24/7 in pretty much all the rooms of my house. So really highly recommend them. And the new ones, their filters are supposed to last 2 years, which is great because that is another expense is replacing the filters. But yeah, that's a nice thing about the 2.0 units that the filters last even longer than the 1.0 units. And just remember to clean outside of them frequently, especially like I have a bit very fluffy dog, and so I can see his little dog hair like collecting on the bottom of it. So clean the outside and just make sure that it's got nice and easy airflow, at least 4 inches, I believe, away from any walls that it's nearby to make sure that the air can really get around it. They have a video, I think, on their website where it shows the vortex that happens, like it's two like little tornadoes next to the machine. So just think of that when you're placing them in your home.
The other thing you want to look at are the vent filters and any return vents you have in your home. So just making sure, any AC vents you have that have a filter, you're replacing those every 6 to 12 months. You can also get some that are like the HEPA filters, so they catch a bit more. I would argue that the filter you have and replace frequently is going to be more effective than the filter you have and never replace. So if the HEPA filters feel too far out of budget, just make sure you're replacing the filter to some capacity, but I don't think they're that expensive.
Yeah, they're not too bad. I just my fiance Alan is very good at like just he's got I don't know, he doesn't have calendars, he doesn't put reminders for himself, and yet somehow he remembers to like replace them he'll even do maybe once a quarter. Maybe he's overkilling it. But it's nice to have that just always be nice and clean. You never know what it's gathering on that thing, and you just don't want that sitting in your house.
So next we should talk about maintenance cleaning, and that's really, there's three parts to this, right? When you're a CIRS patient and you're trying to assess the safety of your home in the first place, you're looking at endos, actinos, and mycotoxins, and that would be the mold particles. So breaking this down one by one, endos, endotoxins, that's anything to do with sewage, gross. And the main place people can get endotoxins in their home where it's like you didn't have an overt sewage leak would be dehydrated drains. So if you have drains in your home that are not frequently used, so for example, I have my master bath has two sinks and then my guest bath has one sink. I only use one of the sinks in my master bath frequently. And so weekly when I'm cleaning, I just run the sink that I don't typically use. So just every couple weeks, make sure you're hydrating that drain. Another good example would be like if you have a laundry room where there's a drain in the floor or a garage where you have a drain in the floor, those kind of things. It's easy to forget them. So definitely if you're not like Alan and you don't have a sixth sense for that, just create a calendar reminder for yourself.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be to replace your toilet seal every 10 years. So definitely calendar reminder that one.
Yeah, that's hard to remember otherwise. I will say, if you are a person that likes to use storage everywhere you can, or maybe you just have very little storage capabilities where you live, you may be tempted to use an extra shower that you never use as storage. I know lots of people do this, so no judgment. But again, just keep in mind you really do need to use that drain. If you are going to use, or when I say use it, run water in it for the reasons JC just described. So, I mean, you could take a pitcher and just carefully pour water just down that drain if you do have a bunch of stuff in your shower, for example, that you obviously wouldn't want to get wet. So that would be a way around that. But just keep those things in mind because sometimes, I can see where, at least for me, if I had a shower like that, I might shut off the idea in my head that it even is a shower, and you just don't even treat it that way. Same for like older homes that might have like a built-in bar, like with a sink in it, in the island that you never use because I don't know. I've seen that situation as well at friends' houses where they just there's a sink in a bar that's like in the living room and it's like we don't use this, but you should. You have to at least fill it with water. And you don't want to just seal off that drain either. We covered this in a recent podcast about remediation. I think it was our CIRS-X recap from this year. Yeah, where one of the speakers talked about don't just seal up a drain you never use because that's the easy thing to do because you want if a leak were to happen somewhere in that room, you want water to be able to escape. You want it to get out of that room. So if you seal up a drain where there could be water coming through, maybe that the faucet on that drain that you covered just springs its own leak and now you've got water all over the room. So yeah, don't seal drains. Take that time every couple weeks to fill those drains up. I think I've belabored this topic enough, but it's important.
Well, that was such a great talk. It was by Danny Dene, I think, and
Derek.
Derek Dene. And the other reason you don't want to close off drains is because the reason you're hydrating the drains is to hydrate the P trap, which is basically it's like I'm showing this if you're watching, but it's like this, it doubles back. The drain doubles back and water sits where it doubles back so that gas can't go through and up. And if you cover that drain and that becomes dehydrated, the gas is still coming up. So
Right.
covering the drain is still a problem whether or not you have a leak. And what he showed was that that gas actually corrodes metal over time. So eventually you're going to also corrode the pipes if you don't hydrate the drains. So hydrate your drains.
Yes, I forgot about that, but as soon as you said it, I remembered that whole part of his speech. It was great. He was such a great speaker. I hope
He
he
really
comes
was.
back. Yeah, he was fun. Next is a really exciting topic of actinos. It's so exciting because the little bacteria guys are just going around eating dead skin cells and growing on your skin and eating mold. They're gross. They're gross. They're actually gross. But actinos, some people say actinos, some people say actinomycetes. Did I say that right? We never say the full word anymore.
Actinomycetes.
Mycetes. Mycetes. It's even cuter, guys, but they are not cute. As described, they are bacteria. The way to get rid of actinos, and you can't really fully get rid of actinos, just like you can't really fully get rid of any of the toxins we're talking about. You just want to get them down to a safe level in your home. Small particle cleaning. This involves dry wiping, then wet wiping surfaces, and then vacuuming surfaces everywhere in your home. Now that sounds daunting, and it kind of is. I want to validate that feeling of overwhelm you might be feeling right now. But if you just take one room at a time, maybe focus on the room you spend the most time in. Maybe your bedroom. That's the one that you focus on. Or maybe if you spend a lot of time in your office in your house, that would be, second priority or whatever. But just focus on one room at a time, get kind of used to the routine of it, and then when you feel ready, add on another room, or maybe rotate. You do one room one week and the other room the next week. Whatever feels doable to you. Obviously, the more you clean, the better. But this is real life. We all have real lives and jobs and things we have to do. So do the best that you can. But that is generally a good practice to get yourself on a good routine to keeping your home as clean and free of extra actinos as you possibly can.
Yeah, and annoyingly with Actino's cleaning, ideally the sicker you are, the more frequently you would be cleaning, which is like the hardest time to clean. So if you do have someone where you can ask them for help, or if you have the resources to hire someone to help, that would be ideal. But again, Barbara, you hit the nail on the head. I almost hit the nail in the coffin. You hit the nail in the coffin. It's almost Halloween. We can say that.
Yeah.
That the cleaning you do, however imperfectly, is better than the cleaning you don't do because you can't do it perfectly.
And just to like add on some little easy things that I've added in my life to make the process easier for me is I have bottles of cleaning solution and paper towels under all of the sinks in my house so that whatever room I'm in that I decide to clean, all the supplies are right there, ready to go. I also, have more than one set of sheets or bedding. I know that's a big expense, especially if you want to get decent stuff that's going to last.
Quince,
But sorry.
Quince. Go to Quince,
Yes.
quince.com.
Yes. That is pretty reasonable. I mean, it's still like, it's like 100 and something bucks if you want to get whatever, like all cotton, some natural fiber stuff, but it's very important. They last a long time. They're high quality. We both love that brand, so if you couldn't tell. But buying multiple sets of those things will make the process of washing and replacing your bedding easier because you don't have to like, oh, I need to find a day where I can pull all the bedding and wash it all in one day and get it back on the bed in time to go to sleep. Trust me, that is an ADHDer's nightmare. It's certainly a CIRS brain fog nightmare to try to like find all that time to do that in. So make it easier on yourself by buying doubles of things where you can, when you can, so that that process is a little easier for you.
And just in case you are looking to invest in bedding, another brand I really like is the Threshold brand from Target because they have organic cotton sheets that you can buy. And white sales, which is what they call bedding sales, typically happen in January and July. So if you're not doing this around like Black Friday, those would be the other two times it would probably be the cheapest to invest in them.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
So next we're moving on to mycotoxins, which are mold. That's the mold part of this trio. Again, leak alarms and then the under sink trays just to catch anything and alert you if anything does start to leak. And then periodic testing. So you could do this, if you have a safe space and you don't have any leaks for a year, you could do this periodically yearly or every 2 years, or as you feel symptoms return without obvious exposure. So if you're starting to feel run down, you're starting to feel symptoms return, you get blood work done, you're seeing things spike and you're not quite sure where that's coming from, that would be a good time to retest your home.
Yeah, perfect.
And we do have another really great episode of You're Leaking Now What, I think is what we called the episode. But it was inspired by my AC leaking in my old apartment last summer. So if you do have a leak, definitely check out that episode, just preemptively, I would say. But basically, what you want to do is cut out as much of the leak area as possible and then dry it within 48 hours. Yeah. And then after that happens, you're going to want to test the space to ensure that you didn't have any mold growth.
Although I guess it might be, I mean, we don't know exactly why your apartment be continued to become less and less inhabitable over time, and which is what prompted you to move. And so you did a fantastic job. I just want to validate that publicly. You did such a great job making sure the maintenance guys cut out the amount that they needed to of the drywall and to fix the leak and all the things that you did, and yet it still ended up getting worse. And I know also you're limited a little bit on the fact that you're living in an apartment, so you don't know, is this leak that you're seeing like indicative of a systemic problem that's somewhere higher up that you don't even see? Like we will never know, and that's I guess I just want to throw in a little bit of reality that in your situation, that was an alarm, literally or figuratively, I suppose, of, okay, this might not be safe. And then you took precautions, you did everything you could, you retested, you started to feel symptoms, and you recognized, okay, it's time to move. And that might be a similar journey that our viewers would probably have to do too in that situation.
Yeah. And I hope that you don't have to do that part.
Yeah,
But I think also just the way that, modern houses are built, just expecting that you may have a leak event at some point and making sure that you're knowledgeable about what to do in that situation is really the best thing you can do for yourself so that you feel empowered if and when that situation does occur.
absolutely. Yeah.
So those are our tips and tricks to maintaining a safe and healthy home. Definitely leave any comments if you have any hacks, especially for the small particle cleaning. I think we all want that to be as easy as possible. And in the meantime, if you are looking for more resources and support in your CIRS journey, you can join us over at the cirsgroup.com.
We'll see you there.